Okay, guys, we just had an earthquake in Turkey, and it's been magnitude 5.5, 5.4, depending on the agency, but in an area highly, highly dangerous. Same kind of tectonic setting where 55,000 people were lost in 2023. And the strange thing is, could this be a precursor? Is this the main shock? And the thing is, if we look at the earthquakes in that area over the last 30 days, look at it. Nothing. Nothing. No foreshocks. Nothing. So is this the main shock? Then let's look today, yesterday, even 7 days back. Do you see anything? No. So this came out of the blue, boof, it's here. So depth was roughly 10 miles, something like that, 7 kilometers. So that can still be considered shallow. Not super, super shallow, but shallow enough to panic people. So what is going on? Let's look into this, guys. This just happened. Other agencies now have it at 5.7, 5.8. So this is the same broad disaster zone as 2023. Today's quake was reported around Malatya, Batalgazi. This is one of the provinces that was badly, badly affected by the 2023 Turkey-Syria earthquake sequences. The agencies, as I mentioned, differ slightly with the report of the magnitude. So roughly 4.3 miles deep. The GFZ reported it at 5.8 at a depth of 6.2. Those are the one that I would like to stick to for now. I really like them. They're usually quite accurate. So schools were evacuated. People were running outside in fear. So technically, yes, this could be a foreshock, but nobody can know this in real time. Real time is happening right now. We will only know if it's a foreshock if we see a larger earthquake, right? This is the problem. So the safer scientific wording that I would use is this is either a moderate aftershock still from the quake in the still stressed 2023 rupture region, or it is a new rupture on a nearby fault segment. So if that's the case, we could still see aftershocks for weeks, months, or years. So years is the thing here. Is this years after 2023 that in 2026 this is still an aftershock out of the blue without warning, right? This is what I find a little bit strange. Nothing the last 3 days. 2023, you might wonder, we were dealing with a magnitude 7.8 quake and then a second huge magnitude 7.5 up to 7.7. So they're not unified about this, but the second large quake happened only 9 hours later. And I just showed you an earthquake only 5.2 in China, but you see these masonry buildings collapse. And Turkey has the same kind of buildings, so a 7.8 with these buildings. That's why we, a year later, saw people jump out of the second floor of their homes when only a 5 point something was shaking the region, because they were worried that the house might collapse above them. So think about this, 2023, 7.8, and only 9 hours later, almost the same size again. And that's why roughly 55,000 people were lost. You know what I mean with lost. You can't say these words here on this platform, unfortunately, but thousands more in Syria. So the 55,000 was just in Turkey. So Eastern Turkey now hit by another strong quake. And the scary part is not only the magnitude, it's the location near Malatya, close to the same earthquake disaster zone. And of course, it's a very simple question that we're all asking. Is the crust still unstable enough to produce something bigger? Has there still enough stress accumulated? Quake is shallow. That matters because earthquakes are felt much more violently than deeper ones. And it was not some tiny tremor buried underground. This was strong enough to send people running out of buildings and residents being scared. And right now, we don't see an immediate major damage, but the fear amongst the people is absolutely obvious because this region definitely knows, guys, what happens when this fault system tears open, meaning is triggered. So Malatya province, eastern Turkey, part of the same region that was devastated February 6, 2023, Turkey-Syria earthquake sequence. And these two strong earthquakes in 2023 have ripped through a huge section of southern and eastern Turkey. They have destroyed or damaged hundreds of thousands of buildings. And Malatya was one of the provinces that were hit very hard by this earthquake. So when a new magnitude 5 plus close to 6 hits in this area, people do not hear, yeah, that could be a moderate earthquake. They hear and feel 2023 again. And after these two massive earthquakes in 2023, the ground does not simply calm overnight. The crust has been broken by these earthquakes. The stress has been moved, and some fault sections have slipped, but other sections have been loaded by this. And that stress, that can stay trapped in the crust for a month or even longer. So this is why this still could be an aftershock from the original disaster. The crust is still adjusting to what has been changed by these massive ruptures. So we can imagine that this is like a cracked windshield in your car. So one big impact hits the glass, the main crack, yes, forms immediately. But then after a while, if you don't fix it, like I usually don't, smaller cracks can keep spreading later, and especially when pressure is shifting across the glass. And a fault system works really in a similar way, except that the glass is the Earth's crust and the pressure is the tectonic stress. East Anatolian fault. This word scares everyone who knows a little bit about earthquakes in Europe, especially, is one of Turkey's major strike slip fault systems. So not a subduction system, right? That means blocks of crust slide past each other. Imagine like the San Andreas fault, right? Turkey is being squeezed because of the fact that the Arabian plate is pushing north into Eurasia, and that pressure helps force basically the Anatolian block westwards. So the East Anatolian fault, unfortunately, is one of the boundaries where that movement is then released. That's why we have these earthquakes, right? The catastrophic earthquake sequence in 2023, and thousands of aftershocks right after, thousands. And then stress changes on nearby fault branches that are branching out from that fault. And that's why we're looking so closely at today's 5.8. So 5.8, not large enough to start a new disaster, but still dangerous enough to announce something. So in Turkey right now, I'll read this to you. Emergency response activated. Disaster and Emergency Management Authority of Turkey immediately mobilized regional search and rescue teams to conduct field scans in the urban core of Malatya and surrounding rural villages. So this has been going on. So I'll keep you updated, guys. Stay safe and really check out that underwater volcano. I have an update there for you. They named it, they found it, and it's larger and longer, and it's very close to the surface. And if magma then hits the seawater so close to the surface, fear of tsunami. That's the only word I say. And fear of another Hunga Tonga style eruption. So check it out here. I'll see you in a second. Bye-bye.